don't want to work anymore. I just want to be cherished, put up on a pedestal, and taken care of.
Oh.
Say hi to everyone on YouTube, Sue.
Hi, YouTube. Thank you, Benny. I'm like, oh, nope. No.
That's what I'm here for.
I know. Thank you, babe. Yeah. Privacy. Yes. Love, sex, and commitment, baby. Is my volume up?
Okay. Let's do this.
Actually, I just recorded a podcast on that this morning.
Okay, cool. We'll roll with it. Let's spin it around towards, I mean, I love sex and commitment, but having confidence and boundaries, because I haven't seen the podcast. I mean, it all.
Oh, no. But I mean, I'm like, I shoot. Well, I mean, there's so many topics, so many titles. So whatever you want.
Yep, we're ready to go.
All right, stand up.
I think that I found myself a cheerleader. She's always right there.
Right there when you need her. Look at Jonathan. He's having a great. He's dancing. If you're tuning in live radio, you are wondering what in the world is happening. Me too. Benny, this is so crazy because it's YouTube that you get to see us. So how they can just go to YouTube 1150 KKNW, right?
Yeah, you're pretty much all over, and so am I, and so is our guest for today.
I know, Mr. Humankind.
Mm-hmm.
Be
All
both.
the best.
Be both. We have an amazing guest back with us today. And Jonathan, prior to us going live, you were like, well, what are we going to talk about? And there's so many topics that we can talk about. I mean, there's confidence. And then, of course, your new book, which we're going to get to in just a minute. I wanted to remind all of you, please sign up for the newsletter. It's SueLundquist.com/newsletter. I mean, go figure. And, of course, you can get more information at SueLundquist.com. And also, right after today's show, I've got a free webinar if you guys want to join me there and reclaiming the essence of you, some boundary conversations. You losing your energy? Are you spinning out? Come play with me on Zoom. There's so much going on right now. And seriously, and Jonathan and I will get to this, but there's like the top 3 questions, and 1 is boundaries, and 2 is I have zero energy. What happened to my vitality? And we're going to answer that. Well, I'm sure we're going to answer it today in the radio show because it's a really hot topic, but for sure on the free webinar that I'm hosting after this, we're definitely going to address it. And I'm going to give you some real life practical tools to make all that happen. So go to SueLundquist.com, sign up for the free webinar. Free. Did I say free? Benny, did I say free?
You said free. Say it again.
Free.
Boom.
Free webinar, SueLundquist.com. You'll see that pretty mug right there. And Benny, did you see the new branding and all the nummy yummy stuff?
I did. It looks amazing.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited. Thank you to Randy. All right, Jonathan, hi, welcome. Hi. And if you guys, I know we've got live radio, but we're also on YouTube. So I actually get to interact and see you.
You made me take a shower today.
Yeah, you and me both.
And shave.
Oh, nice. Well, Jonathan, well, first of all, love, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm honored
you.
to be here. Big hugs to you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I could totally do the formal introduction, but you know what? I'm going to let you roll with it because it's the essence of you. It's the vibe. And I want people to hear you again.
Oh, gosh. I'm used to my formal introduction. Then I can go, what did I just say that?
Yeah.
For those listening really quick, I'm a midlife dating and relationship coach, most for women. Midlife is what I say after baby making years and before retirement. So if you're 42 to 69, that's the population I speak to. And why I specifically speak to that population is that 75% of singles who are in that demographic, who are actively dating, seeking a relationship, are divorced. And so what makes me a little bit more unique than a lot of those dating and relationship coaches that got married in their 30s and had children and they're still happily married is I got married, went through a contentious divorce, went through emotional chaos, lost my $250,000 a year job, self-medicated with drugs and alcohol, used online dating to satisfy my, dysfunction. But I came out. Huh?
Numbing out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've come out of the tunnel. And so I share from, and I've also had a significant relationship. So I share from a perspective of a lot of what the male population that women are dating. I've been through it. So I can lean into a lot of different conversations. And it was really quickly, and I'll kind of end the intro. It's through the personal development, self-help, and spiritual work that I did all these years that got me out of that dysfunction, if you will, of needing to self-medicate and self-soothe through online dating, to being in a place where I feel like I'm an emotional grown-up right now. And we can talk about what that looks like, what an emotional grown-up.
grown-up.
In fact, that could be a great title. What does an emotional grown-up look like?
Let's do it. Roll with it, babe. What does an emotional grown-up look like?
So, so I've observed that most humans operate from an unconscious perspective. And what I mean to say is it's not intentional, but it's very myopic, very myopic. It's through their own, we all have our own perspective, but in many cases, it's their tunnel vision. And it's because from the way I've observed, is unresolved childhood wounds and traumas that have created negative patterns and limiting beliefs in one's life begins to, they've been deeply entrenched and they begin to surface more as we age. Hence why it's called a midlife crisis. It's where your blueprint of where you thought your life was going to be collides with your reality.
Wow.
So,
wait, that's beautiful. Did you guys hear that? Where the blueprint of your life collides with your current reality.
Yeah. There's a movie called Revolutionary Road with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. And, it's interesting because if you look at this movie, it's a perfect example. This is based in the late 50s, I believe, early 60s. But, Leonardo DiCaprio had all these dreams of, I think he wanted to be a writer, he wanted to be a traveler and all that stuff, but he got married, started a family, and he realized that all of his dreams were suppressed. He never experienced them. And then he had midlife crisis, and she had her own midlife crisis. So I coined the term, your blueprint of what you thought your life was going to be like collides with your reality. And in many cases, people are unable to cope with that.
Oh,
and so this is what happens. So this creates so this is the foundation of where emotional maturity comes in.
Okay.
So I have a podcast called The 5 Signs to Emotional Maturity, and I'm going to share it with your audience today.
Yes, please.
And sign number 1, your actions consistently match your words. Your actions consistently. Not your actions absolutely match your words, because we fail. We are human beings. We're going to, I was going to use the F word, but we're going to mess up sometimes.
Thank you.
I was able to hold myself back.
Oh, live radio.
So our words consistently match our actions.
I really like, and I'm going to, pardon me, bear with me. I love that because at our last radio show, we were talking similar conversation. And yes, you reminded me, humans do mess up, but it's the consistent actions, the consistency that outweigh.
Yes. So if I say I'm going to call at a certain time, I'm going to call at a certain time. If I say we're going to, I want to take you out on this date, I make plans to take you out on a date, as an example. That doesn't mean, I once had, I once told a woman who I was interacting on a dating app that I would reach out to her at 5 p.m. And what happened was I had such a busy day at work and I was really looking forward to it, and I just lost track of time. And I reached out at 6:15. Well, my actions didn't match my words. And by the way, coincidentally, she ghosted me. So
you got to tell the audience what ghosting means.
Oh, ghosting means she did not respond. I reached out with a heartfelt apology because I made a commitment. I didn't live up to it. I said, hey, I lost track of time. It's rare for me that happens. Are you open to talking? And she never responded, meaning she disappeared. Ghost means disappear.
Okay, thank you.
So for her, actions matching words probably is an absolute. And I recognize that was the early stages, but we should also have compassion. That's why it's consistent. That's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2, You take personal responsibility for your choices. You take personal responsibility for your choices. Now here, particularly in the United States, people are suckling on the breast of victimhood. I was trying to say it without breaking
I
any
know, that's
laws here.
so true. That's so, and
They're
they don't even
suckling
know
on
it. They don't
Yeah.
know it. Like,
There's victim consciousness. So if you ever have to do one of these, you're pointing the finger somewhere else, you're not looking at the three fingers pointing back.
I love that analogy.
And so, for example, you've gone through a divorce, and let me give you an example. You're on a date with someone, you're asking about their past relationship, they got a divorce, and all they do is blame the ex. My ex cheated, my ex did this, my ex did this. And they take no responsibility whatsoever. That's a person that has victim consciousness versus victor consciousness. We want to have victor consciousness. I take ownership for my part. I was a little despondent in the relationship. I didn't contribute as much. While my ex-partner did this, this is how I didn't show up either. You take ownership. When you take ownership, that's emotional maturity.
That's it. What about, this is coming up, and I've got to advocate for the audience too. So, because we were talking about within the conversations of being on a date, what is it, and maybe you're going to answer this in the 5 signs. What is it when you're having conversations, getting to know the other person, and they keep bringing up the ex, like he did that or she did this, and it's consistent? Oh, well,
that actually will be addressed in a second, but let's jump into right now. So what that is telegraphing most likely a hurt or pain that's continuing to linger.
Gotcha.
It's lingering pain. It's an unresolved micro trauma. I call them micro traumas than major traumas. So there's a micro trauma that has been unresolved. Now, sometimes you have to learn to be like Columbo, can you learn how to read between the lines? And while a person may still lament over an ex, doesn't mean they're necessarily a bad candidate to be relationship. But you have to kind of feel into, is it more an unresolved wound, or is it they just are still madly in love and want to be back with that person? And sometimes you have to be straight in someone's face and go, I'm pointing, for those that are on the radio, you don't see me pointing in the camera, and say, what's up? What's going on here?
Oh, totally. But okay, so let's do a paradox here. Let's change this. What about, oh, shiitake, I just had an awareness that I'm talking so much about my ex.
Yeah.
Oh my God, do I have some unresolved issues that I need to take care of?
Yeah.
Versus the victimhood.
Yeah, so when someone actually takes ownership, and that's a great example of awareness, okay? I fell into the rabbit hole. I fell into the hole. Wow, I'm in this hole. Wait a minute. This is my fault. My fault I'm in the hole. It's my responsibility.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, you know what? I realize I've been talking a lot about my ex. I'll be candid with you. I still have some unresolved issues. I'm working through it. I'm actually seeing a therapist. I'm seeing a coach, or maybe just the awareness in and of itself allows me to process. And I really appreciate you being patient with me for a little bit, because
vulnerability in the communication.
Well, most human beings have incredibly weak communication skills. We have this fantasy, and women live and breathe fantasy. They live and breathe. Men don't live in fantasy. Women live in fantasy because of Disney movies and The Notebook and Serendipity and all the other movies alike.
Never seen them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't buy that. So the fantasy that communication is that humans actually know how to communicate with one another. And the reality is weak communication skills, which actually leads to the third example of emotional maturity, is someone knows how to do what I call fight fair. Fight fair.
Yeah.
What I mean by fight fair is there's always going to be friction in a relationship. There's going to be friction. There's going to be something that rubs you the wrong way. A emotionally mature person listens to the other person's point of view, accepts the other person's point of view, and even though they may disagree, and it's not about I agree to disagree, it's I will listen and I accept that that's your perspective. And you are entitled to your perspective. Now, if two people can do that together, they have a greater chance of success in resolving conflicts, because conflict resolution is one of the #1 reasons why couples fail. And I don't like saying the word fail, I'll just say end, but it's a failure because they haven't been able to learn how to effectively communicate with one another.
Totally agree. And there's within that fighting fair conversation, the ability, and even just to say it straight out, and I'm speaking from personal experience, I'm not saying this to make you wrong. I don't want to make you wrong. I genuinely want to have this conversation. Because you instantly within the conversation, you can see they're like, oh, I feel shamed or something. And that is absolutely not my intention, right? Can we noodle on
But most people, they fight to create guilt, okay? Because they believe guilt is a great motivator for shift. And it's not. I mean, it can be a little bit. I mean, I've been guilty of things. I'm like, oh, I want to shift that. But to guilt someone also can trigger the even worse effect of shaming someone. Mm-hmm. Because guilting someone could trigger shame in a person, and then they feel less than. And when a person feels less than, they're incapable of leaning in. They lean back because they're literally trying to avoid what's going on.
And it's that conversation of creating that safe environment. I call it the CCs, compassionate curiosity. If you can be compassionate and get curious.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. I'm a big proponent. Compassion is like my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyways? It's all learning about compassion for oneself, and compassion for other human beings.
Define compassion. In a sentence, in a conversation, in an
God, you know what? I don't think I've ever had to do that. It just occurred to me. So compassion for oneself, it's like this, the way I look at it. We all have our adult and we have our little kid. And our little kid can absolutely internally crucify ourselves. I mean, we literally, we can tie ourselves to the cross with the nails in the hand and feet in a horrific way, self-attack. Compassion is just giving yourself a big, gigantic hug of love and saying, you know what? You're good enough. You're good enough. You're lovable. You're likable.
Genuine,
I wear a bracelet.
Genuine and authentic. Oh.
I wear a bracelet that says, I'm good enough, right? I'm enough, excuse me.
I'm enough.
Yeah,
that's
it's upside down.
Can you see my first tattoo? So, and the audience knows this. So literally, I'm totally good with art and tattoo and all that. And we're kind of doing a segue, but listen, this is all about self-love and compassion, right? Yeah. And I wanted something very meaningful. And of course, what did I do? And I teach this stuff too. And I'm like, oh, daughters, will you draw a little heart for me? Because that's going to show me how much I love myself. Oh, good friends, can you draw a little heart? And I'm going to tattoo that on my body. I'm like, Sue, what are you doing? This is my cursive handwriting that says, I love you. And to remind myself to stay above the line. So there's my.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I'm trying to twist my.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah. So I can't go wrong with that. It's my cursive handwriting, and it reminds me to love myself and to stay above the line in that compassion and stuff that we were talking about. Right?
So are you familiar with the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer?
I have heard this. Are we going to? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go into a segue here. So the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer, and to me, forgiveness simply means forgiving love. Forgiving love. So the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer, also known as the Ho'oponopono,
yes,
I believe if I've said it properly, is I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Now, what that actually does is it's a pattern interrupt into our nervous system that actually shifts out of anxiety, despair. You can't cure depression from the forgiveness prayer, but the forgiveness prayer is like giving yourself an injection of love.
Yeah.
And it's the same it's an aspect of self-love. It's just giving that little kid inside of you a big, gigantic hug of love. And so compassion is both that big hug within self, and then recognizing that most human beings are doing the best they can. And even if you feel slighted from someone, you feel taken advantage of, whatnot, most humans, not all, most, don't intentionally do things. It's just that they're myopic. And that leans into the next aspect of emotional maturity.
Number 4, right?
Number 4, which is empathy.
Mm.
Now, empathy is mostly described in the sense of I can feel your feelings. But I've leaned into a different aspect of empathy. Sympathy is, I'm sorry you went through this experience, right? Empathy is, I literally feel the experience you have. But I want to take empathy to another level, and that is, I care about your feelings. I care about your feelings. And this is where there's a tremendous, so when you're myopic, you're only focused on your own feelings. In fact, John Gottman talks about the 3 stages of love, and stage 1 is you're trying to get your own needs met. Stage 2 is you're trying to meet your partner's needs. And stage 3 is your partner's needs become your needs. Your partner needs become your needs. So you actually, that takes a level of building deep trust in the relationship. But going back to empathy, I care about your feelings. So like on a date, I'm using dating as an example. And the reason why dating is so pivotal or so poignant here is that dating triggers the number 1 emotional health issue facing everybody. And dating triggers it like dating and relationships trigger it like nobody's business. And that emotional health issue is I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not likable. So on some core level, we feel that. So empathy is saying, you know what, I'm sitting across from you at the table. I've got my feelings, but you know what? I'm going to care about your feelings too. I'm going to try to actually lean into and go, let me put myself in your shoes for just a minute. And that is a sign of emotional maturity, of the 4th sign.
The 4th sign. I love it. Hey, Benny, maybe with a segue and teasing the audience a little bit, maybe what we should do is take a quick commercial break. I got to know that Benny is in studio. Benny, can you come back on the video?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm totally here. I just turned off my camera. So,
sorry, love. I couldn't see you. So let's do that, love. Let's do a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the number 5 about emotional, what did you say? Emotional grown-up?
Emotional maturity, emotional grown-up.
Grown-up. I love it. All right. We'll be right back. Sue Lundquist here with the Gratitude Cafe. We'll be right back.
I'm going to do a terrific show today.
I'm going to go run and get coffee.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm smart.
I'm smart. What was that?
What do you mean?
That song. I don't think I've ever heard that.
It's not a song. It's just a clip from a movie.
Okay. Yeah. It sounded like
Was it Jack Handy?
Yes. Thank you.
Oh,
All I heard was I'm smart, and I knew it was Jack Handy.
Yeah.
Stuart Smiley. No.
Yeah. Well, it's Stuart Smiley reading Jack Handy's quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was
Saturday Night Live stuff. Oh, the actor?
No. Al Franken.
Yeah, Hal Franken.
How do you guys know that?
Because we're guys.
Because we have a plethora of useless information.
Pardon me, YouTube. I got to wipe my nose.
Yeah, but then women vomit when it comes to communicating. It's like they say 10,000 words that we can say in 500 words.
Yes, yes.
We have our own little idiosyncrasies, our little peccadillos.
And I'm going to lean in and be empathetic.
Lean in. You don't lean back. All this leaning back. No, you lean in.
Lean in. Okay, checking to make sure we're all good on this side, and it looks like we are.
Tell me when we're starting.
No problem. Benny will let us know. You've probably got a minute and a half, 2 minutes or something.
And those watching the YouTube, thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, put your book up, love.
Oh, okay. I'll just go like this.
Self-love. Yay! Screenshot here. Do that again. Screenshot. I did it. That's awesome. Yay! All right, let me.
What the heck is self-love anyway?
What
It was going to
the
say
heck?
the F word, but I changed it.
Thank you. Benny appreciates that. So does the FCC rules and regs.
No, it actually, I mean, I did that for the book too.
Oh, did you? Oh, that's what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was originally going to be.
Yeah.
Nice cover.
Yeah.
That's a bunch of big shoes. Big shoes there. Big shoes.
Big shoes.
Big shoes.
Yeah.
Does big shoes mean something?
Yeah. BS. A lot of BS.
Yeah.
I wear a size 18. No, I'm just kidding.
I could go with ears and hands too, boys. It's this
You
conversation.
know, on camera, my hand looks really big.
Coming back in.
Oh. Woo! I love it. All right. During the break, you missed it on YouTube. We were talking about, ears, hands, feet. You have to go
Is
back.
this a fetish conversation? Is this
Well,
a fetish show?
Actually, hang on. You only missed it on the terrestrial radio side of things. On YouTube, you did catch everything.
Yeah.
So you need to go back to the YouTube.
That's what I meant to say. Thank you, Benny, aka Mike.
You're such a teaser.
Yes, I am.
My girlfriend says that too.
Lean in. Lean in.
Lean in. Leaning in.
Lean in, indeed. Oh, that's awesome. Humankind, be both. Jonathon, welcome back, love.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you. So, top of the hour to all of those on live radio. If you guys are just tuning in, please go back because we have really dived into a lot of deep conversation about self-love, being an emotional grown-up, what that looks like, defining that.
Yeah.
And Jonathon and I having a pretty candid conversation about what that looks like under the kind of the umbrella of dating too. We're sprinkling that in, but just, be human, be kind, and be both. We were talking about the 5 signs to emotional maturity, the 5 signs to emotional grown-up. We talked about, consistent was number 1. 2 was personal responsibility for your own actions and behavior versus the victimhood, right? Oh my goodness. And, there was something I had heard a few years ago. Oh, I don't remember who it was. And there was the old analogy that, okay, I take 50% responsibility, you take 50% and we'll come together. That doesn't work. I take 100% responsibility, you take 100% responsibility, then we come together and we figure it out.
Well, I think it's 100% of my part.
My part, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Because the parts can be lopsided. I think it's important to recognize that one person's action might trigger something that's, a huge disparity. But ultimately, it's really just saying, I take ownership of my part. Whatever that, how much that weighs, it was really irrelevant. But
absolutely. That's taking
emotional maturity.
Absolutely. And then number 3, fighting fair. It's conflict resolution. Absolutely fighting fair and having the tools and the language to be able to do that. Yeah. Number 4 is empathy. And that is, Jonathon goes above and beyond and says, he's leaning into you. I care about you and what you have to say, correct?
Yes. In other words, I care about your feelings and I'm anticipating it too. In other words, I'm going to give you an example. Okay. What do all men think about on a first date?
I'm going to let you answer that.
Oh, come on. What's the number one thing we're thinking about if we're attracted to someone?
Sex.
What are we thinking about? Sex, right? So those are givens.
Yeah.
So we know this about.
Do you hear Benny?
What? I was just adding a little.
Was he doing bump, chicka, bounce?
Yeah. Welcome, Jonathon.
I know, right?
I know. I love it.
So, and I only use this in the example. So we already have some what I call givens. Okay. And one of the givens I'd like to encourage people to be thinking about is that there's actually somebody else sitting across the table from you on a first date, second date, third date. There's a human being. That should be a given. Humankind be both. Okay. Not it's your world, that there's somebody else there too. And your job, and it's not about impressing them so you can get whatever you want for them, is you actually care about their feelings. You're actually thinking, and this is men and women alike, because men can be incredibly chivalrous and women just receive, but they're not contributing as well.
Yep.
So I'm a big proponent. I talk about this in my videos on my YouTube channel, is a relationship is a two-lane street.
Share your YouTube channel, love. Make sure the audience knows it.
Oh, well, hopefully there's a link below, but my YouTube channel is my name, Jonathon Aslay. But it's a two-lane street. Your cars should be traveling at the same speed together. And I'm yelling only because there's this imbalance, and the whole courting process is set up for failure because of that imbalance. Because it's set up based on expectations and not empathy or compassion.
And then, okay, so that was 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we talked at the top of the hour about the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer. I love you, I forgive you.
Nope. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you.
There we go, thank you. That was beautiful. And then we were going to talk about number 5.
Number 5, the fifth sign of emotional maturity, I believe, and this is my perspective, and there's more than 5, these are Jonathon Aslay's 5, is transparency.
Okay.
And we can interchange authenticity with that too. But I think what's important about transparency, what we're really leaning into here with this, is that when you ask a sincere question of another human being, then they should sincerely respond to it instead of avoiding it. Mm-hmm. Transparency is actually sharing, when you're interacting with another human being, what's coming up for you. Now, now in the early stage of dating, that may be difficult because you may have something very private that you don't feel safe to share.
Right.
But ultimately, when a relationship begins to form and evolve, and there's sexual intimacy going on, there should be, I believe, that transparency is a demonstration of emotional maturity. And what we're seeing in the relationship realm is people are holding back significantly. They're holding back significantly.
Well, I'm advocating for the audience, because if I'm thinking it there, so at what point do you have that I'm guessing there's different levels of transparency in different parts of the conversation, right?
Well, so I think if it's material to the relationship, then, and you ask a question that's material to the relationship, then the transparency is, I'm going to answer it instead of avoid it. So
you're saying if I'm avoiding it, I've got to look within and go, okay, is it a trigger? What's happening?
Well, first off, you have to have awareness to recognize you're avoiding it. Most people are so blind to that they're incapable of it.
Yeah.
But if you're the person at the receiving end, you lean into asking more questions. And if someone continually deflects, and if they deflect with a level of hostility or turning it around and making it about you, then that's an example of what's called gaslighting or defensive behavior. And that's typically a person that doesn't know how to fight fair. They lack the empathy. They don't take personal responsibility for their choices, and their actions are most likely, it goes right up the top, and you'll recognize that this person lacks emotional maturity. Now, men, and since I coach women on understanding men, we aren't always transparent because of the following reason. We don't want to make a promise we can't keep. Most men. So there's always oftentimes an imbalance. A woman gets to a level of commitment well before a guy does, and she's seeking this validation, and he's not going to make a promise he can't keep. So this is why some men are holding back, because the emotional responsibility of the relationship is greater than he can lean into.
Yep.
This is why when a woman works with me in my private coaching, I teach what I call the roots to trust. The roots to trust.
Ooh.
Now, what I mean by roots to trust is that a relationship requires developing roots. And there's 5 primary roots. Now, I only teach this in my private coaching. So these 5 primary roots actually help develop trust. And when trust is built, people can be more and more transparent. But so think about it, Sue. What happens to a tree in a hurricane wind with no roots?
Yep. Twink.
Twink.
Over. Yeah.
And relationships are so hyper focused on romance as the development of the relationship and not the core essence of a relationship. And this is why so many new relationships end at some point. I was going to say fail or end, because they never build the roots to trust.
Well, there's a conversation in that too, Jonathon, that says, I don't think I really wanted to invest in that anyways, right? You've got to have that awareness and clarity. I mean, when you say that, I'm thinking, well, if I'm invested and genuinely are going to jump into this and lean into this relationship, I'm going to do the work.
Yeah.
If I'm like, I love you, I bless you, you do your thing, live your life, that's fine. I'm not.
Well, acceptance is certainly one aspect. You know, anybody can accept anything in a relationship. But if your needs, wants, and desires are continually not being at least attempted to be met, and it's not being expressed, then you're going to have a relationship most likely with resentment. And the pink elephant's going to show up someday. So I'm all about heading it off at the pass. Gotcha. The sooner you do it, the greater chance for success. So I always say to my clients, I don't know if I'm allowed to say these words on radio, but if you're going to have intercourse on a regular basis,
say that.
Okay, I can say that. Figure that's a generic word. But if you're going to have intercourse on a regular basis, then you have every right to talk about what does it take to create a healthy, happy relationship. This is why my audience always hears about the book 8 Dates by Dr. John Gottman. 8 Dates by Dr. John. This is the mechanics to a relationship. And about this percentage of by the way, never do that to a guy.
The audience has no idea. The radio audience has no idea what you just did.
Yeah, I put my finger. The vast majority of the population have this level of awareness of the mechanics of a healthy, happy relationship. And ladies, I know you guys think you're the container. You're the ones who want commitment more than men. And you think you know everything. And trust me, I interview thousands of women every year, and you're clueless just as well. Until you read this book, and then you're going to be clued in.
Bring the book back.
Okay, the book is 8 Dates by Dr. John Gottman. Do a screenshot.
All right, 8 dates. Here we go. Cheese. I got you. Yeah, live audience, guys. You know what we're talking about. So Gottman, just Google Gottman 8 Dates and you'll find it. Jonathon, please remind them how to find you. It's Jonathon, and I'm going to spell it out because when you say it really fast, I can't hear what you say on your last name. So my name is Jonathon, Jonathon. Last name is spelled A as in apple, S as in Sam, L-A-Y, Aslay.com. And so it's As and Lay. Oh, of course.
As and Lay.
Yes, of course. Now they'll remember it. And that's also the YouTube channel.
That's my YouTube channel as well.
Yes. So we have been talking yummy, juicy stuff. Quite honestly about, and those top 5 things, it's all about self-love too, because I'm rereading it. Transparency, empathy, fighting fair. What we were talking about, what was it? Consistency.
Victor versus victim consciousness, and then consistent words. Isn't that brilliant? I made that up myself.
I love it. But it's that in its own conversation is about self-love. I mean, that's self-love. It's about being an emotional grown-up and working towards fostering, big words, working towards leaning in, fostering, because it's an evolutionary process. It's going to keep evolving.
So I think of self-love as inner peace, And so like my podcast is called the What Would Love Do podcast. And it says, we're on an exploration of life, love, and the pursuit of inner peace. Because to me, inner peace is missing in most humans' experiences, a level of inner peace. And so when you look at, like famous gurus, that are, spiritual gurus, one of the things they emulate is just a level of inner peace. We're going to have chaos in our lives. So self-love is like a vaccination to emotional chaos.
Okay.
A vaccination to emotional chaos. And what that vaccination, that, injection of love is to give oneself a level of inner peace. In other words, it's not about being too high and it's not about it being too low.
Right.
And love is the antidote to that. And, you know, for those that follow my work, and this is, I'm sharing with your audience, I suffered the most horrific thing any parent can ever suffer. In the summer of 2018, I lost my 18-year-old son, Connor, to an accident. That's, for those on the video, that's a picture of him right there. And any parent knows that's your greatest fear. Our greatest fear is something happening to our children, and I experienced this. And I'm grateful I didn't go down the rabbit hole of pain and suffering. And that's because, and I talk about this in my book, at the end of the book, it's because I spent 15 years prior doing personal development, self-help, and spiritual work that prepared me for this tragedy and this horrific experience. And I was able to lean into what I call grieving with love. Grieving with love, because I could have chose to grieve with pain and suffering. That's certainly an option. And his loss inspired me to write my book, What the Heck is Self-Love? I started writing 2 months after he passed. I published it 9 months to the day after he passed, as an honor, as a tribute to him, because there's some elements of his personality that are in this book, but it's an invitation to begin a daily practice of loving on oneself, because I now feel in a much better place. I have chaos in my life, but it doesn't affect me the way it did 15 years prior, where I did drugs and alcohol to numb the pain.
Yeah. And hence the conversation about creating inner peace.
Yes.
And it is the self-love, the emotional grown-up, emotional intelligence. That's the shot. The, what did you call it?
A vaccination to
vaccination.
Emotional chaos.
Yeah, vaccination. I'm thinking.
And I'll be candid with you, Sue. I had been doing a lot of work, and Connor's passing, that makes me cry now. It broke me open. And okay, now this is getting harder. That I'm grateful. I'm not grateful for his loss, but I'm grateful for the lesson that came from that, because I chose to see it as a lesson and a blessing, instead of, and don't get me wrong, I mean, it's painful. There's days where I'm punched in the gut and I can't move.
Right.
Okay. And I allow the experience to happen for me, and then I transition out of it.
Versus the other.
Versus getting stuck in the pain of it. And I do believe we have a choice. It's it's the red pill or the blue pill. To me, the red pill is love. The blue pill is denial. The blue pill is avoidance. So I choose love instead of denial, avoidance, and suffering.
Audience, did you hear that? Because this is the conversation of a very powerful experience. But what Jonathon is also saying is, to you and the audience, look at the awareness of the two different types. You can choose love and you can choose grace and ease, but you can also, and this is the awareness part, because there's so many of us that have blinders on for whatever reason, fear, denial, we're just numbing out. So if you are finding yourself in that spiral of fear, denial, give me some other words, Jonathon.
Anxiety, unrest, depression, uncomfort or discomfort, excuse me.
Discomfort, yeah, discomfort, but that's not a common term, but you hear, the commercials and the doctors, if you're fighting anxiety or fear or blah, blah, all that.
Take a pill.
There you go. If somebody's saying take a pill,
now,
don't take that.
When it's overwhelming, there is a benefit for a pill to get you to a certain level, but ultimately, and I self-medicated. I was doing all day long for years after my divorce. I think you know what I was. Oh, by the way, for those that didn't see it, I was pretending to snort cocaine. I mean, I did court, but it was drugs and alcohol that got me through every day. But that wasn't healing me. And I had to finally take a step.
And what was that? What were you doing in your body? Were you, because that's that juicy moment, right?
So I went to bed for for a period of time wishing I didn't wake up. And I had small children at the time. I went to bed wishing I didn't wake up. And ultimately, it was just like, I looked in the mirror and I didn't see me.
Mm.
And I mean, metaphorically speaking,
Right.
Yeah. And I said, and actually it was the movie The Secret that came out. And when I watched it, I go, this resonates with me. So something came into my consciousness that I said, that resonates with me. This is an interesting point I'm going to share too. So in that moment, I began to lean in a little bit more, and I got the book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And I started to listen to Tony Robbins on the infomercials. I mean, the incessant infomercials. Yeah. And little by little I was doing, then it was Abraham Hicks that I got kind of addicted to. And then it was Marianne Williamson that I love. And then I found the book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I'm like, oh my God.
That was a brilliant book, by the way. Yeah.
So interesting. I have a new client who's a male, and I work with women. 99.9% are women. So now I have a male client. He came across my YouTube channel, and he's listening to me talk. And he something happened. He said that trigger. He's like, I want to learn from that guy. That was all he said. I want to learn from that guy because I'm sharing all these experiences. And he goes, that's me. So he reached out and he goes, I want to learn from you. And now he's a client of mine. He saw himself. So it's that seeing ourselves in someone else, or like something triggering. For me, it was The Secret. For somebody else, it could be anything.
Yeah.
But it's when that moment, I always think it's a humbling moment that causes it. Whatever humbling moment causes you to choose the red pill or the blue pill. And most people go down the road of pain and suffering. But here's the good news. You will gain awakening. For most people, it's about 20 seconds before they die. Yeah. Okay, but you will gain it. Okay. So I love the line in the movie Shawshank Redemption. There's a famous quote that said, get busy living or get busy dying. And for me, that quote, coupled with Walt Disney's quote, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. It's a daily practice. And that's what I do every day. There's a famous quote that says, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. It's a practice. And that's my invitation for everyone.
It's an invitation. Did you guys hear that? I love it. All right, Jonathon, we have probably about 6 more minutes. Where do you want to take this interview, love?
Well, I want to bring up another book since I'm big on books.
I think that's a good idea.
Here's a book, screenshot. It's called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. This should be your Bible. This along with a couple other books that I mentioned. And by the way, the title should have been called Compassionate Communication.
Okay.
The reason why it's called nonviolent communication is most humans communicate from a victim consciousness, and it's combative. You did something to me. I felt this way because you did this to me, and you're to blame. Okay. Nonviolent communication is, I felt sad when you didn't return my phone call when you said you did. I felt sad. That's literally just sharing what you felt. I'm not making wrong. I'm just sharing what happened. That's compassionate communication. I felt sad when you didn't live up to your promise to me. And I just want you to know this. You're not making, and now you could follow up with a request. If we're going to continue in this relationship, can you endeavor to, or make an effort to at least pocket dial me, because everybody pocket dials 52 times a day.
Okay, I got it. I'm chewing here. Okay, so when you say that, this is what I love, and this is how I love this conversation. What came up for me, and many women, I'm sure, is, oh my God, you're being emotional. Right? I mean, I've heard that so many times.
From men.
And I've heard.
And guess what? Your response? I'm a woman.
And
I'm a woman. I am emotional. If you want to have intercourse with me, this is the price of the package. And if you can't accept the price of the package, go find some submissive woman that'll do whatever you want, because that ain't for me. And by the way, ladies, if I was able to curse, I'd be cursing my head off.
I know you would. Thank you, me and Benny. Thank you. So does FCC Rules. Thank you so much. you and I can go and have a conversation off regular live, but how many times, not only have I heard that from men, but also there's been women from a pre-program.
By the way, you could say to a guy, if you can't appreciate grown-up conversation, then you ain't my guy. And let me just follow up. There's 2 chapters in my book. Chapter 1, speak your truth, do it with kindness. I said that in a very kind, compassionate way. I forget what chapter is. The other chapter is, if it's sincere and from the heart, you can never say the wrong thing to the right person.
Yep.
So here's the thing. Someone who says you're getting emotional, you call them out on that. You can say, look, I'm a woman. And I said that tongue in cheek, but you could say, I'm a woman, that's who I am. It's price of the package. But ultimately you say, if you can't appreciate if I can't share my feelings, if I can't be transparent and you have empathy, then you're not an emotional grown-up. It fits the 5 signs of emotional maturity. And if it's consistent, then ladies or guys, say next.
Yep.
N-E-X-T.
Swipe, what is it?
This is your this is my invitation to create your standard. And I'm here to be a voice of a wake-up call, and I yell so you can hear.
That's what a wake-up call is. He was standing up and going, I love it though. I love it, that passion, that commitment, and leading by example. So
lead by example.
Wait, I want you to look at me here. An audience, I'm going YouTube with you, Jonathon. Thank you from the bottom of my heart and all those thousands of women and men, because you're leading by example. You're in the rink, right? You are in the muck of it.
I'm in the
muck of it.
I'm in the shiitake.
In the shiitake of it. Yes, you took my word. Yes, the shiitake.
I heard it in the movie too.
Oh, was there a movie? I didn't.
I think I forget the movie.
Hang on. I would like to own that. I thought that was my own.
No, that's been around for way long.
Oh, has it? Okay, well.
By the way, there is no original thought.
Thank you.
We're just a culmination of a lot of experiences.
Yes. So remind the audience, we're about 2 minutes out. Your website, I'm going to give them the exact spelling, audience. If you're driving, pull over. If you're not, I'm going to spell it out. J-O-H-N.
Nope.
No, why? Look, it says right.
J-O-N-A-T-A. That's misspelled. Your assistant.
That was okay. Then you.
By the way, look at your screen. It has my name right there.
It doesn't show up. There it is. Oh, well, then I need my glasses. Oh, for criminy sakes. JONATHANASLAY.com. And it's also the YouTube channel. My apologies.
Channel, podcast, the book.
Oh, so exciting. We got about 2 minutes. I love this. So love, sex, and communication. Audience, are you showing up as an emotional grown-up? What does that look like? Well, Jonathon.
I like that as a title better for this.
Which one?
The 5 signs of emotional maturity, or what's a emotional grown-up.
Oh God, I love it. Let's do it. The 5 signs of emotional grown-up. I like emotional grown-up because it's got a little twang to it, right?
Yeah.
So consistent, personal responsibility. That's a big one for me. It's that ownership, right? Come on, ownership. Fighting fair, it's another big one. I mean, all of them are really. So it's being consistent, personal responsibility versus the victimhood, audience. Number 3 is fighting fair, that conflict resolution. Number 4 is empathy. Jonathon says, above and beyond the typical empathy meaning, it's you leaning in and saying, feeling, I genuinely, my words, genuinely and authentically care about your feelings. Those are big buzzwords for me, is genuine and authentic, because in a hot second, I can feel it if you're not. And I'm like, I call the B and the other S word.
I gotcha.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's got to be authentic and genuine. That's number 4, care about your feelings, leaning in. And number 5, transparency. Super juicy, yummy, sexy conversation. If you are just tuning in, well, poo-poo on you. You missed some really good
stuff. Go rewind.
Rewind if you are tuning here on YouTube. Hello, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Jonathon, it's so fun. I love having you. I love having this conversation.
Thank you so much. Wait a minute. Was this live on YouTube right now?
Yes.
Oh, I thought this was going to be posted.
No,
All right.
we're all live, and then we'll repost, and now
Got
we're
it.
going to turn it into the podcast and
Okay,
all
cool.
that.
We're
Just
all
like
over.
live
We're all
TV.
over for you, Jonathan. We're all over.
Yes,
Okay, cool.
all over. All right, guys. Jonathan, thank you so much. Show your book one last time, babe. I know I did.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Until next week, each of you are a gift. Get out there and share yourself with the world.